Hello and welcome to the Pennsylvania Association for College Admission Counseling Virtual College Fair. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited for this panel that you're joining us for. It's called Building Your College List and Exploring Your Options. I have a few announcements as we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. That's why that Q&A button is really important. This is just one of many different events that are happening for students as a part of the Pennsylvania Association for College Admission Counseling Virtual College Fair. We hope that you will be signing up for additional sessions. This panel and all sessions are being recorded. You'll be able to find them in about a week's time at the same website where you register, strivescan.com/Pennsylvania. I'm really excited now to turn it over to our panelists today, and I'd like to welcome Jeremy Branch to get us started. Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Hello, everybody. It is so good to be with you today. My name is Jeremy Branch. I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Penn State University, but I am the president of PACAC as well, this organization that's putting on the Keystone Virtual College Fair, and we're so happy you're with us. Before we get to the panelists, though, on this fabulous session that I can't wait to hear about more myself, they invited me to talk a little bit about your college search. I know you juniors and parents, you're nervous, especially because due to the pandemic, things are looking a little bit different, aren't they? A lot of families are coming to me nowadays and they're saying, Jeremy, talk to us. How in the world am I to conduct my college search journey without the ability to readily tour any college or university I want to? I mean, this is what my older brother was able to do. This is what my cousin was able to do. This is what I expected to be able to do. And I understand your apprehension, your nervousness, your anxiety, but I actually have a pretty good piece of advice for you. I want you to invert your college search. What in the world does that mean? Well, let's think about some of those siblings that you have that may have gone to college before you, or the way that you expected to be able to do your own college search. Now, years prior to the pandemic, what prospective students would do is they tour first, right? They get their feet on a lot of different college campuses. They get really excited. In fact, sometimes they fall so in love that you couldn't talk them out of that first choice school, right? Even if it wasn't necessarily the right fit for them, because they were passionate, they were excited, they saw the energy and they said, this is where I want to go. So they tour, they fall in love. Then they gather some other pieces. They'd start to worry about whether or not it even has their program of study. Then they'd worry about, okay, where's the location? Maybe I'll reach out to admissions with some questions. And then they would talk about costs with their families. It's been that way for a long time. But out of disruption comes opportunity. I invite you and your family to approach it a little differently. Invert the search. The things that students would do last before, I want you to do first. Before you even worry about getting your feet on campus, why don't you start to gather information? Now, one of the things colleges and universities have done a phenomenal job with is providing virtual opportunities to get engaged with them, right? So you have these virtual open houses and virtual tours and things of that nature. And some students have come back to me and they're like, Jeremy, I get it. I'm so happy they have it, but it's not the same. I understand that. I'm not saying it is, but it's a good starting point. Get an idea for what that university is really about. Usually, out of the heart's abundance, the mouth speaks. So the things that you care about the most, you speak about the most often. The same thing is the case with colleges and universities. What are they talking about in these presentations? What are some of those key takeaways? And how does that maybe tie into what you personally are looking for? Then I want you to do some other things. I want you to start thinking about size and location and how that matters to you, academic offerings, student aid, cost, scholarships. And then from there, start building some relationships with people like me. Now, I know a lot of you are scared of me and my friends at different colleges and universities. You view us as gatekeepers, the people that are going to keep you out, that are going to squash your dreams. But I want you to think about us a little bit differently. We work in the office of admissions. not rejections. So that title in itself tells you that our university charges us with admitting students, for bringing them into our families. Ask us some questions, not things that are easily Googleable, right? If you could find it in an easy search on Google, don't ask me that question, but ask me the follow-up. Don't ask me what majors I have. Ask me which ones are maybe the most popular. Or if you're a student who thrives in English, what are some programs that Penn State has or the other institution you're talking about that maybe would feed off of that, right? Ask questions, engage. The first time I hear from you should not be your application. Start establishing those relationships now. Invert your search. One of the things that I'm really excited about with this particular way of thinking is that I'm starting to wonder that if students do their college search in this way, they might actually increase their chances of finding the proper fit, because you're bringing a logical approach to your college search and not just an emotional one, right? You can navigate your college search successfully. And my hope is, as you attend this session that follows right after me and some of the other offerings we have through this PACAC virtual fair, you will have a clear picture and depiction of these schools, and you'll come to grips with the fact that your search just will look a little different, but it may be even more meaningful. To hear a fuller description and hear me talk about it a little bit in a longer format, I actually talked about this very topic on my own personal podcast, the Bebo University podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. But thank you so much for tying in with us today. I will now hand the program over to our illustrious panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Jeremy is always kind of hard to follow, but we're going to get started. My name is Julie Sitko. I am the College and Career Counselor at Moon Area High School, and I'm going to kick us off with talking about how to build a quality list of schools which falls in line with your post-secondary goals. Before you start thinking about where you want to go to college, you should think about why you want to go to college other than getting a degree. If your answer is because everybody else is going, or an adult in my life wants me to go to college, that's not a great reason. The next question to ask yourself is, what do I want to get out of college in addition to your degree? Once you answer these two questions and you have good, legitimate answers to the questions, then you can move on. When we think about building an initial list of colleges, here are some good, easy questions that you can start with. How close or far from home do you want to go? And do you want to go to school in a city, a suburb, or a rural area? What size of school do you want to go to? A large, a medium, or a small school? What do you want to study? Can you afford the college? And will you get into the college? Exploring colleges is a great opportunity to look at yourself and think about who you are and what you want. So what we're going to do now is just take a couple minutes to dig into those questions a little bit deeper. The first one is, how close or far do you want to go? This is the first question I'm going to encourage you to think about. Talk to the adults in your life and determine what you think is realistic. Do you want to be in driving distance from home? Do you want to fly to get to college? Do you want to stay in Pennsylvania, or have you always dreamed of living in Colorado? Do you want to be able to get home to get your laundry done and get a free home cooked meal? Or do you want to get as far away from Pennsylvania as possible? Or is the answer to all of these questions somewhere in the middle? Think about what you want, not the adults in your life or not your friends, but what works best for you. The next thing that you can think about is the location of the school that you're interested in attending. Do you want to go to school in a large metropolitan city, or a smaller mid-sized city, or in the suburbs, or in the middle of nowhere? When you're not in class, what do you want to do? Do you want to be surrounded by sidewalks, people, museums, and a lot of action? Or do you want mountains, lakes, parks, and vast amounts of green space? Or are you again somewhere in the middle, that you want cultural activities, but you also want to be able to go to the great outdoors? Answering these questions can help you answer that location question. Once you've made some choices about location, think about what size of school you want to attend. When you think about this both academically and socially. So what kind of learner are you? One example of an academic difference is that larger schools usually have a wider selection of academic programs or majors, in courses offered, whereas smaller schools often have fewer majors in courses offered, but the students are more likely to get personalized attention to professors simply because there are not as many students. While at a larger school, you might be able to choose from hundreds of majors. At a smaller school, there are not as many majors offered, but you may have the flexibility to create your own major or program. Think about what type of educational environment challenges you. Do you want to listen to world-renowned professors talking about the research, or from day one, do you want to be engaged in small classroom discussions? Think about size from a social standpoint. What do you want to get involved in college? Larger schools will have more activities to choose from, but smaller schools will have fewer activities, clubs, and opportunities, but you may have a greater chance of being a leader because, again, there are fewer people vying for those positions. Consider what's important academically and socially, and look to find schools that have things that are valuable and important to you. Medium-sized schools fall in the middle of the extremes, but with medium-sized schools, keep in mind that there's a big difference of a school that has 3,000 students and a school that has 9,000 students. Those are both considered medium-sized schools. So you thought about the location and the size of the school, but what do you want to study? Even before we talk about what you want to major in, do you know what a major is? A major is the typical or the program of emphasis that you'll focus on in college. Typically, between 1/3 and 1/2 of all of the courses you take in school will be in your major or related to your major. You can also pick up a minor, which is a specialization that requires fewer courses than a major. You may or may not need to have a minor in college. Your major is likely associated to what kind of job you'll have after college or graduate program you'll attend, but not always, and that's a whole different presentation. If you know what you want to study, research what colleges have the major you're interested in. You'll hear later in the presentation how to find good information about colleges. Once you find schools that have the major or majors you're interested in or you're considering, research the academic programs at the college. Google accounting at whatever college. When you dig around the website, you should be able to find the classes you'd be required to take at the schools you're considering. Look at those classes. Are they classes that interest you? If you cannot find the course requirements online, email somebody in the academic department. They'll get you the curriculum guide. That's also a really good way to make a connection at a school that you're interested in. Find out what kind of internships, out of classroom experiences students are having. If you're interested in archaeology, what are the archaeology majors doing outside the classroom for internships or summer jobs? Look at what the graduates are doing in their degrees. Are these companies, jobs, or organizations, graduate schools that you're interested in? If a school graduates 100 archaeology majors and 98 of them are either gainfully employed or in graduate school, it's safe to assume the school is doing a good job of preparing their students. On the other end, if only 2 of those 100 students for archaeology majors have related post-secondary plans, you have to question, what is the school not doing to prepare their students? If you don't know what you want to study, that's okay. You're a high school junior. You don't have to have a 40-year plan. Take deep breaths, breathe, it's okay. Think about what classes you like. What excites you? What are you interested in learning more about? In what profession could you see yourself working? Do you like machines more than people? Do you think you'd like to work in an office or at a desk or work outside or a combination of the two? Schools all have career centers. These are offices that can help you figure out what you want to do in college, what you want to major in, and then once you figure that out, they can help you find jobs as well. What resources are available to help students figure out what they want to study? Do this research as you're looking for colleges to find out how much help you can have in picking a major. So you've looked geographically where you want to go, what size campus you want, and what you want to study. Now you have to look at if you can afford the college or university. Affordability and the cost of university is one of the most important factors in identifying schools. Look at the school's financial aid pages. What are the direct and indirect costs? What are the scholarship opportunities? What percentage of the student body receives some sort of financial aid? What are the student aid policies? On the financial aid pages, all schools have a net price calculator. For some schools, this is a great tool to help you understand costs and what you may anticipate paying. Talk with the adults in your life about how much realistically you can afford. It's okay to take out college loans. They're a good way to build up credit. And as you grow up and as you're an adult, credit scores are something that you care about. But what you don't want to do is take out too much debt that it burdens you. According to the website educationdata.org, the average college graduate in 2020 had $36,900 in debt. When you're looking at careers and occupations, make sure your career goals fall in line with your anticipated debt. This brings us to our last question. Will you be admitted to the school, and how do you figure that out? Many colleges post their middle 50% GPA, and I do believe most colleges will consider posting middle 50% SAT, ACT scores if they are test optional. So a lot of schools, or most schools, post this information on their websites. Check out their websites. Compare your grades and scores, if you have them, to the college's middle 50%. If you're in range, then you have a better shot of being admitted, with the exception of some of those most competitive schools. Some schools will also share information about what else they're looking for in an applicant in terms of community service, leadership, or what they want to see in your essays, and if they're considering demonstrated interest. Many schools are also looking at the classes you're taking and the grades that you're earning. They will evaluate those grades in the classes in relation to your desired major. So for an example, if you're interested in studying business and you had a C in your junior year math class, they may see that as a red flag. That may be something that you have to address in your application. Because when you think about it, you're going to have to take intense math classes your freshman year for a business major. So now you've spent considerable time on self-reflection and you've started to research colleges and you have a list. In the beginning, your list might be long, and that's okay. You'll eliminate schools as you learn more about them and as you visit them. You may also add new schools, and that's okay too. Start a spreadsheet or keep a list of what you do and do not like about the schools that you're interested in. When you do have an opportunity to visit schools, or if you communicate with someone from your schools, keep track of the communication. Keep track of the answers that you're getting. Keep track of who you know at the schools. It's important to do a thoughtful search of colleges, so when you do apply to schools your senior year, you're applying to schools that you really want to go to, not just schools that sent you a free application. Good luck with your search. We know that even though it's overwhelming at first, it's fun to learn about yourself and about schools around the country. Mike?
Thanks, Julie. I appreciate that. There's so much good info in there, and I feel like it's really easy to get overwhelmed with all those questions. But what I really love that you focused on was you talked about how important self-reflection is, and that it really starts with thinking about oneself first before you think about the college that you're going to go to. I'm going to get into doing some virtual college research, but Julie, I'm wondering if I can put you on the spot to answer a question that I think a lot of students have. How many colleges on a list should I have on my list?
I think that's a trick question, Mike. So when I talk to my students, as a junior, I would say right now, maybe 10 to 14 schools.
Okay.
But you want to narrow it down. I encourage students to apply to between 4 and 6, but all of the high school students and parents, you could ask Mike, Stacy, and I are all school counselors, and you could get 3 different answers. You could ask Liz and Jeremy and get additional answers, but I like it to be a manageable list. So I say now 10 to 14, because you're definitely going to narrow that down.
Great. Yeah, I actually tend to agree. I tend to agree, like right now where you should be is maybe about 15 schools. And then you're going to narrow that down to probably between, 4 and 8 or 5 and 10 at the most. Stacy, I'm wondering what your opinion on this is, because certainly it's likely to be different than either of ours too.
Yeah, the net gets, it's a bit wider right now, but we usually aim for somewhere between 6 and 8, depending on, what the final list looks like at the end.
Great. Okay. So if you're out there listening right now, we hope that you're thinking, okay, what are those questions that I'm asking myself? Where am I kind of doing some reflective activity right now? Because this is like really the perfect time. And then where is my list at right now? Okay. And if you have 25 schools on your list, you could be in worse shape, You've narrowed down the 3,000 or more schools in the country down to 25. That's a good first step. Your next step then should be to narrow that 25 down even further to a number that you feel more comfortable sort of wrangling, right? There's lots of stories in the news these days about students applying to dozens of colleges. And I think all of my counseling colleagues and I would agree that applying to 20 colleges is sort of not great. At the end of the day, you're still going to have to choose one college to go to, only one, right? And if you do a lot of this work beforehand, you're going to end up in a much better spot come 1 year from now when things are way more stressful and you're trying to make a decision, right? You're gonna end up in a much better spot because you've done your research, because you've made these choices to reflect here at the beginning of the process. Jeremy mentioned earlier that he hosts a podcast, and as another podcast host, I always say that much of your work is done in the pre-production, the work before you even get to the actual podcast. And I think that's important here. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about how to really dig in and do good virtual college research. Because as Jeremy mentioned, maybe a few years ago, your first step in this college research process would just be to get into your car, find the nearest college nearby, set up an appointment there, and go wander around the campus and say, all right, this is kind of cool. I kind of like this, or no, thanks, not so much. Because of COVID, these days, a lot of colleges have had to sort of transition their work into virtual formats, which I think is a benefit for a lot of students. It certainly increases access to colleges, right? It also increases opportunities for students and families to get into the driver's seat of their virtual college visit experience. And I think more than anything, it puts a lot of control back in the hands of students and families to say, I can do this. This is a step, an action step that I can take, is to, spend a couple hours this week or this weekend doing this virtual work. So there are a bunch of ways that colleges have made this really easy for students and families. I point out Bucknell University here on the screen because they have literally transitioned their entire their entire welcome center, which you would normally see in person, into a virtual welcome center. This snapshot is directly from their website. And so they have all of these opportunities that are so great and so cool right here on their website that you just click onto Bucknell's homepage, bucknell.edu, and there's a visit link right at the top, and it'll take you to this space where you can do any number of these things that I've listed here. So you can do a virtual tour, which is sort of where you are watching like a YouTube video that paces you through the campus, and they give you different opportunities to look at 3D images and panoramic photos and other little, I think, like video snippets of students at college. I think it's really, really cool. Virtual tours are very cool. They're also very, very like passive way to interact with a college. You can just sit there and watch a virtual tour, but you're not really getting like insider knowledge in a virtual tour. You're getting kind of like an overview of what you're about to experience at the college. And virtual tours have their pros and cons. Certainly it's easy for you and your family to access a virtual tour on a weekend or in an evening. You can do it at any time, but you're not necessarily demonstrating your interest in a way to the college that they are going to know about, because you can pretty much do a virtual tour anywhere, anytime, right? The way you can kind of demonstrate your interest more actively would be through one of these other options, a virtual information panel, where the admissions team will put on a sort of presentation of different people showcasing some information about a college, maybe a specific program, a specific major, student life at the college. There are so many virtual information panels. You could also do a virtual info session. Lots of admissions representatives these days have really accessible drop-in information sessions. Maybe they happen every day from 5 to 6 p.m. And you can just sign up for one, go and hang out in that virtual info session, learn what the college has to offer just by listening or to watching video or slideshow or what have you. You could also do a whole virtual visit day. Some colleges will block out an entire day of programming where you can do virtual visit info session after virtual info session, back to back to back to back to back all day long, which is pretty cool. And then the last option are one-on-one conversations with your specific admissions representative or students. And Stacy's going to talk a little bit about how to connect with admissions reps a little bit later in the presentation. But I will say that every college you apply to, you'll be given a specific admissions rep that will work with you through the process, sort of like Jeremy. And that person will be in charge of reading your application, just sort of coaching you along throughout the admissions cycle. And that person is such an important resource. And I'm not going to dwell too much more on that. I'll let Stacy handle some more of that info later on. So once you've started identifying some of these things that you would like to interact with at a college, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to start to do some what I call nuts and bolts research or basic data collection on the college. And I've identified how many did I put here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 resources that are really great. And you might know of others. There's lots and lots of resources out there. These are just 4 that I really like because they use college reported data, not random data, not student reported data. They use college reported data to showcase specific information. You're going to want to do this research because it's going to allow you to collect what Jeremy was talking about earlier, easily Googleable information. Okay, so I mentioned, or I put on here Naviance. You may have Naviance at your school. SCORE is another really great resource. Big Future by the College Board, and the College Scorecard, which is one of my favorite resources. It's very easy to use. And I would say individual college websites are also really important, especially for majors. As Julie mentioned earlier, you might be considering, well, I really want to be an archaeology major who has archaeology as a major. It's really difficult actually to find comprehensive lists of all the schools with archaeology in the country. So instead, you have to sort of look around at specific college websites because those majors can change almost every year. New majors are being introduced, some majors are being taken away. So I underlined individual college websites because I think that they are really critical to doing really good research. So what do you do? And I guess I put this slide at flip-flop with my other slide, but that's okay. So imagine you are interacting with a college virtually. There are a few pieces of etiquette that we always suggest. We always say that you should have your camera on whenever possible, right? That is good etiquette for a virtual interaction. You should always mute unless you have a question. As a parent and as a student, you're welcome on the video. It doesn't much matter, who's there. People are understanding these days that like you're in your house, right? And so if your dog happens to come in the room, as long as you're on mute, the dog is more than welcome in the video too. You should definitely be taking good notes in your virtual interaction. And I always say you want to try to at least ask one non-data driven question, like not how many majors do you have, not, do you have dorms on campus sorts of questions, right? You want to ask a question that is responsive to the presentation. That would be great. But you might also ask a question that is specific to you. You might say, I'm a student who is really wanting to be successful in college. Can you tell me about your writing center and your extra support services for students to help me make sure I get to the finish line strong? And let the person elaborate on that. So what do you do with this information, I think is another really important question that I talk with students about. And I always say that your information, you have to put your information specifically somewhere. So I made this spreadsheet for y'all to use if you would like. You can click on it. or sorry, you can't click on it. You could type it into your browser. It's just tinyurl.com/college data 2021. I'm going to show you what that looks like really quickly. I think I still have at least a couple minutes before we need to move on. And I think it'll be super helpful. So let's see. It's not going to let me. Sorry, everybody. Give me just a second. There we go. All right, so this is what this spreadsheet looks like. It gives you an example, 2 example colleges on here, and it's just a really easy place to collect nuts and bolts information. I also included a couple of those resources that I mentioned at the top. This is for virtual visits, UVisit, and this is for the college scorecard, which I love. There's also this really great resource called Campus Reel that's very fun if you want to watch videos made by students. And so you want to collect some of this basic information. Doesn't have to be exactly this, but this is just sort of an idea to get you started. Total number of students, admission rate, graduation rate, 2 to 3 majors of interest for you specifically, the distance from your house, not from my house, extra programs that you might be interested in, the virtual tour link so you can give that to your family members if they want, and then maybe some general thoughts after you've accessed the college virtually, and some things that you maybe thought after you did some research, right? So if you want to, you can go up to the file and make a copy of this document for yourself. You can also download a copy for yourself and just keep it on your computer at home. It's totally accessible for all of you. And I'll go back to the presentation. So for everybody who doesn't have that link, again, it is tinyurl.com/college data 2021. So what does all of this look like in terms of what you can actually be doing over the next few months? And I sketched out what I'm calling an example college research workflow. And if you're thinking about what I want to do with this information, this would be a great moment to screenshot this screen. Like if you're on an iPhone, you can hit the buttons and it'll screenshot. If you're using your computer, screenshot the screen. So here's the 7 steps I would take. Number 1, in this order. Number 1, collect basic data using the college scorecard or Naviance. Put that data in a spreadsheet like I just showed. Number 2, go to a college's website and identify majors of interest, not from one of the databases, specifically on the college's website. Number 3, do a virtual campus tour using UVisit or some other tool. Some colleges have virtual campus tours built into their websites. They don't use UVisit. Once you've done that, you're going to then sign up for a virtual info session or information panel, okay? And that's going to start to give you some more active information. For steps 1 through 3, you're sort of doing passive research, right? Not interacting with the college, but with the virtual info session or info panel is going to let you to start to interact with the college. And then we're going to take a page out of Julie's script and say, let's reflect for a moment. Is this a school that I'm enjoying learning about? Do they have some insights or some of the things that I want? Could I possibly see myself continuing interest in the school? And if you say yes to those 3 questions, then you would move on to continue to interact virtually and figure out if doing an in-person visit is possible. And last, reach out to your admissions rep and start up a conversation. And with that, I'm going to pass it along to Stacy to talk about actually doing that work. And Stacy, can you just let me know when you'd like me to progress your slides forward? And I think just double check that you're not muted.
There we go. Sorry, I was trying to use the space bar, but it didn't work. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for setting me up there. So we're going to talk about, it's a perfect flow into, okay, what does that actually look like? How are we actually going to connect with these colleges? What are the different modes of connecting? Obviously, you're all here today, so you know all about things like virtual fairs, whether they're regional, it could be the PACAC fair, or it's a national, it could be NACAC fair. So, you know, you absolutely should be looking at this as one of the first opportunities to, you know, at least make it part of your search, but also it is an opportunity to engage with a college and engage with a representative, you know, in a booth or during an info session. Obviously, StriveScan and NACAC are going to be hosting fairs throughout the spring, and I would say we probably can assume that this will go into the fall. But when you do and you go and register for these fairs, one of the things that you should do for yourself just to stay organized is create a schedule. You know, create a schedule. It's very easy to do when you do register for them because there's a My Schedule feature for almost all of them. And when you're researching, just as Mike was saying, how you do the research, once you're researching these colleges, you know, have that question prepared, maybe one or two. And even if it's a question that you ask in the chat feature during the info session, or if you want to just ask a question in advance of the fair, you know, just have that at the ready. You'll notice that for some of the fairs, when you register for some of these sessions, you will have an opportunity to click on schedule a meeting. So it's not even, you know, you can be present for the session, but then you'll also have the opportunity to then schedule a brief meeting with a representative. Sometimes they'll have a leave a message option, or a live chat even, you know, that's always an option. For some of the fairs in advance of that fair, when you do register for certain sessions, on the college profile page of that fair, you often have an opportunity to click on an introductory video. So it kind of gives you like a little bit of a, you know, a preview of what the college has to offer. And in some cases, the colleges have more than one video. So that's really a nice way to do a little bit more research, you know, sort of visually. You can also use that opportunity to favorite or like a college when you're on the website registering for the fair. And then once the session is over for the college fair, that particular session, sometimes you will have an opportunity to even download the presentation for that particular session, which is kind of nice. So those are just more ways to engage in the college fair sessions, whether they are local or they are national. The next thing, you know, we touched a little bit on, you know, what you should be using the college websites for. And I wholeheartedly agree. The college website is the source of information for the college. Things are changing all the time. And I think that's, you know, we can absolutely say that for the last year, you know, things are getting updated, dates, deadlines, opportunities, new programming, new events that colleges are offering. Your go-to should be the college website. That college website is not only going to be something where you should be bookmarking the admissions page and leaving it on your desktop so that you can regularly check back to see if anything new is coming up. But that's also where you can sign up for their mailing list. That's also where you can sign up. Oftentimes they'll have some sort of text messaging option so you can sign up for that. When you do sign up for the mailing list, I think it probably goes without saying, but sign up with that professional email address that you have and just be careful there. And then when you're looking at the admissions pages, when I think we might have one, it might be the slide before, nope, the slide before that, Mike, sorry. Yeah, there, perfect. So when you're on an admissions page, one of the things you'll notice is not only can you click on information sessions, virtual information, this opportunity, that opportunity, but now you also have a live function where you can chat with a student right then and there. And one of the best ways to connect with a college is not only just to hear about it in an info session, but talk to a current student, talk to a current ambassador. You know, that's in real time. I think we all really like that chat function. And that's just something to consider when you are engaging with the college. That's another way. So, and then with the virtual visits and the virtual tours, Mike had mentioned this. So there are sites like UVisit and Campus Real and university. And those were absolutely essential to all of us when we first had to go virtual. And over time, a lot of the colleges continue to partner with these organizations, but they have developed their own, virtual experiences, if you will, and Bucknell is a perfect example, and I'm glad Mike mentioned that. But there are still some universities that when you go to their website and you do a virtual visit, you'll see they'll take you right to UVisit. So that's another way to visit colleges. Some of the colleges have also made it so that when you do a visit and you do a tour, the info session is embedded in the tour. So you're hearing about what they have in the library. You're hearing about what's being offered in a particular, lab or a residential hall. So that's also really nice. And then when you are in an info session, whether it is a particular college's info session or a college fair info session, definitely take notes. But take notes so that when the session is over, you have an opportunity then to send a quick message to the rep, thanking them for their time, thanking them for giving you more information. But then also think about, a key takeaway or a key point that really stood out to you during that session. That's really nice to make that part of the thank you note. I think that's really helpful. So then we have another way that we can connect, which are the web-based planning tools, right? So one of the ones that we have is Naviance. I think, Mike, if you can go back to the slide before, I'm sorry. There you go. So a lot of students will have access to Naviance. It can be SCORE. There's a number of opportunities. Our students in our high school have access to Naviance. And one of the wonderful things about the college search option in Naviance is as soon as you've pulled them up through Super College Match, you will see schools will pop up. And not only will it tell you all the information that you need to know about that particular school, but if you favorite a college, it'll automatically come up as great news. You can connect right now with this particular college. You can click connect. That's another opportunity to connect with that school. Another opportunity is like another kind of column that you can see to the right. And I apologize, this is super small font, but if you go to the right, you will see all of the ways you can connect with that school virtually. So you can click on the photos and the videos of that particular university, student spotlights, faculty and program spotlights. So every college will be different, but any opportunity to connect virtually is listed in the highlights column of the Naviance Super Search. So that's another excellent way to be connected. I think then last but not least, social media, which you guys as students, you've got this. You can navigate this stuff in your sleep. You've got Instagram on 24/7. And what's great about that is, the colleges have come to you. They are finding every way they possibly can to connect with you. And so get on your Instagram account, follow these, folks on Instagram, on YouTube. Some of our favorite admissions blogs, and I know personally one of our favorite ones is the Georgia Tech blog. Tulane's got a great blog. UVA's got an awesome blog, and who doesn't want to see that dog? Like, I just think that's the cutest puppy ever. I'm a huge fan. But I think it's a really great way. And Dean Jean has a great Instagram. She does the live, Instagram TV sessions. And that's just another opportunity. Every college is bringing that online so that you can engage that way as well. The YouTube videos, I think they are really a wonderful way to get robust information about what's going on a campus, because not only is it's the admissions information that you're getting, but you're also getting, campus culture. You're getting the vibe. You're hearing from students directly. So I think that's just another really great opportunity to connect when you can and where you can. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up and say thank you. Thank you to everybody. Mike, is there anything else that we want to share at the end of this session with our students and our participants?
I think we're like officially 1 minute over our time right now. But I just want to say, listen, if you're sitting out there right now in the position that you're in, watching this session, you're already in pretty good shape. You're thinking about what you need to be doing, and you're thinking about it now as like a junior in high school, maybe even if you're a sophomore and you're watching. Maybe if you're a sophomore, you're a little stressed because the world feels like a little stressful right now. So take a breath. Everything's going to be okay. But if you're a junior, you're in great position right now to be in a good spot. And I would say, keep connecting with people and with professionals via PACAC and other organizations and with college admissions reps. Remember, Jeremy mentioned earlier, colleges would like to admit you. They really would like to admit you. They are not working for departments of denials, okay? So just keep that in mind. Julie, you want to add anything before we finish up?
No, I just want to say good luck, and be sure to attend more of the PACAC College Fair events that are today and tomorrow. And then, I don't know, Liz, if you want to kind of give them a real quick schedule.
Sure, yeah, we have daily sessions today and tomorrow from 5 to 7:45. So feel free to join a session, and you can hear from up to 18 different colleges each day. And then we'll also have some virtual college fairs coming in April, May, and June. Our May event will be specific for transfer students. So be on the lookout. You can visit all of that at strivescan.com/Pennsylvania. And I'm sure Jennifer is going to wrap us up with some of that info as well. So thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you so much to all of our panelists for sharing such great information that I know will help all of our attendees and those who are watching the recording later to get off on a great foot for the college search, and especially in the unique time that we are currently in. So thank you so much for all of your work with your students and to share this information. Thank you to everyone who took time out to watch as well. We appreciate that you're taking advantage of this awesome resource, and really hope that it helps you get started on that college search and decision journey. I once had an admission counselor tell me, it's not a process, it's a journey. It's something to be excited about and to engage with. And so I hope that that is the case for all of you now. We are at the end of our time together. So thank you again for joining us. When you close your window, there's going to be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide. Also, as you've heard, this is just one of many sessions that are being hosted for Pennsylvania students as a part of the PACAC programming. So we really hope that you will sign up and join us for more sessions to learn about a lot of awesome schools. It's that way you can help invert your admissions process, as Jeremy recommended at the beginning. So you can get started with that today and tomorrow. In about a week's time, you'll find this session's recording so you can watch it again to make sure you've gotten all this great information. And you can watch all of the session recordings from the presentations by the various schools as well. You can find all of that at the same website where you sign up and register for this panel and all the presentations. And again, that's strivescan.com/Pennsylvania. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day and good luck in a great school year. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck out there. You can do it.